All right, so apparently there's the story making the news that in China, black people were segregated in a McDonald's, or maybe they weren't let into McDonald's. I didn't watch the video. All right. I normally don't watch videos of stuff like that. I don't watch videos of some black dude knocking somebody out at, getting off the bus, because that happens quite often. There was an article about that. There was some news made about that. Some guy just walked up to I don't know, the guy was Spanish or Mexican or white or whatever, and he just got knocked out, had his head stomped on, and that didn't make the mainstream news. That was on some, that was on the internet, but, that didn't make the mainstream news. Here's the thing about that, all right? Here's how I see that. China is homogenous. It's not like America, all right? Number one. B, America is an immigrant nation that probably existed just for the last 200 years. China's been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, okay? The whole racial thing, first of all, the whole racial thing is absolutely different than the whole American racial. All right, you guys can't put a standard on that. On top of that, let's talk about, fake news with this. I don't know what the whole entire story is with that. All right, it's like they're just pushing a certain narrative at this point. I don't know the whole entire story of that. That's like, that news is from like thousands of miles away. Thousands of miles away, all right? Thousands of miles away. But here's the thing. It's hard for me to call something like that. It's hard for me to go, well, the Chinese are wrong. They're trying to contain a virus. They're trying to contain a virus, all right? It's not like in America where blacks and whites have this history of, going back and forth on race and stuff like that. Yeah, I want to make a video on this and throw an opinion on this, but it's just really complicated as far as throwing an opinion out on something like that. Like, black and white interactions have existed for like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, particularly in the Americas with slavery and all that stuff. All that racism actually has a history, right? All that racism actually has a history because of slavery, because of oppression, because of slavery. Like when the Chinese went to Africa, maybe like, I don't know, a while ago, 1,000 years ago, and they came upon the Africans, and they saw that they weren't very advanced. Did they enslave them? Did they bring like a whole bunch of black slaves to Africa like white people did? They didn't bring a whole bunch of white slaves. They didn't bring any slaves at all. All right. I mean, I think they copulated with the women and had like half Chinese kids. So you're talking about trying to relate the history of Western history of racial history of blacks and black people with slavery and stuff like that. And you're gonna compare it to a nation that never enslaved black people. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with their whole social makeup with blacks and Chinese people, but there's no history of slavery with the Chinese and blacks. So whatever racism that exists or it may exist there, I'm sure that it does exist. It's not even comparable. On top of that, you gotta think they're going out their way to contain a virus. So they're looking out for, okay, so they're looking out for, look, whatever they're doing, all right? Whatever they're doing, they're trying to contain a virus. It's not, this whole entire black Chinese thing with the McDonald's, there was no stories of this happening before the virus happened. So, if you're trying to look for a history of racism of Chinese people and black people in China, it's not like you can talk about that because you don't even have any experiences with it. And B, it's not like it existed. There was no big news about that before the virus. So all of this could just be what's happening with them trying to contain the virus. I don't know. So look, people the media is trying to like blow this up into some, oh, they're racist, against these people, but they've never had a history of enslaving you, oppressing you at all. All right, they don't even have a same history of what they're doing in Saudi Arabia, modern day in Saudi Arabia with the Africans. Why aren't you guys pissed off at that? There's videos on YouTube. There's videos on YouTube of some African migrant worker in Saudi Arabia who are abused. Who got pushed out a balcony. Why aren't you guys making a story about that? That should be absolutely appalling to anybody who has any kind of human decency. Why aren't you guys making a story? Those stories have been around for a while since slavery in the Middle East exists. They don't make a whole entire story about that, but they're making a story about a bunch of Africans being kept out of a McDonald's. Come on, man, give me a break on that. Like when I looked at that story, I was like, okay, you're kind of trying to blow this up into some really racist issue, but the Chinese never oppressed the blacks. They never have a history of slavery against the blacks. Okay. So on top of that, in modern day world, in modern day society, in certain societies of the world, like Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, particularly Saudi Arabia, they have a history of seriously abusing, murdering black people, African people, Asian people. These people who just, modern slavery exists in parts of Africa and parts of the Middle East and parts of Africa and more parts of the Middle East. And the media doesn't seem to care about that, but they do care about, during a pandemic where a certain group is kept out of a restaurant. Like, that's not, on a scale of racist shit, that's on the low end. That's like on the low end of racist shit that's happening in the world today. All right, the U.S. media, the Western media, the European media needs to just stop it. All right, you're blowing something up that's not even A, you don't even know the whole entire backstory behind it. B, it's happening during a pandemic. All right, they're gonna do whatever they need to do to contain it. C, on a level of racist garbage, it's a 1 versus a 10 if you do stories, these migrant stories of Africans in Saudi Arabia getting murdered, the Filipinos or Indians getting murdered, abused. The most horrific thing, modern slavery exists in certain part of the world. All right, stop trying to make this into something like that. It's not even comparable. They don't even have a history of oppressing black people. They don't even have a history of slavery towards black people. They don't even have a history of straight out, inhuman abuse towards black people that these other countries have. I mean, think about that. All right, think about the racism that exists with you trying to report this non-news. It's non-news. If you think about this whole entire thing, it's just non-news.